And we're live. Welcome, everyone. It's me, Guy, and of course,
Jessica. Hello, everyone.
How are you guys all doing? Thanks for joining us today. Now, look, there's not a huge amount happening in crypto today, is there? It's pretty quiet. But we thought it would be fun if we just did an impromptu live stream and just saw who was out there, who was paying attention, who was watching. So far, not very many of you, but hopefully a few more will join. Shall I just give a few shout outs to some of my early heroes in the comments?
Let's go ahead.
I want to give first a shout out to Savage Viking. Morning cup of coffee for me, 5 a.m. in the Pacific Northwest. Bravo, sir. Bravo.
Bright and early, starting your crypto mornings. We love it. With a crypto cup of coffee.
Yeah, starting with us as well. Very flattering. I get up at 5 a.m. That's I slept through my alarm today, but normally I get up at 5 a.m. So I have massive respect for anyone else who does. What about you, Jessica?
I'm also an early bird, actually.
Yeah.
I normally am trying to be exercising around 6 a.m.
Okay.
Which it normally means that in Dubai it's winding down by 9 p.m. Staying off crypto Twitter, so we're not up all night looking at the markets.
Yep, absolutely. Well, carpe the bloody DM, as they say. Okay, so hi from the Philippines. Hooray, Emmanuel from the Philippines. Zara from the Philippines says hi, Emmanuel. Hi from Athens, Greece. GM from Canada. We are pretty good. That's good. Now, someone else, Michael W., who's the opposite end of the scale, 10:30 here in Melbourne, Australia. So
good morning and good night to everyone that's watching.
Yeah, look at that, spanning the globe. Wonderful. Okay, what are we going to talk about today?
So we have picked some of the trending topics that are in the news at the moment, some that are crypto related specifically and some that are kind of spanning out, but we think that are interesting to you guys. So we're going to run through some of the topics that we thought were good to discuss today. Starting, Nvidia have their quarterly earnings report at the end of the day today.
Yeah, that is definitely one to look out for. That seems to be, I think, the big story that kind of everyone's sort of keeping an eye on at the moment. Nvidia earnings call, which, as you say, I think that's, did you say that was after the closing bell in the States?
Yes, after the US closing bell. So for everyone where it's morning time where you are, then you'll also be able to kind of witness that, and we'll be probably fast asleep, probably close to waking up when the earnings call comes out.
Yeah.
But shares of Nvidia, interestingly, actually hit a record high yesterday, so in anticipation of the news, and they have really been outperforming this year. So Nvidia shares are up 315% since October. And just to put into context, so no other S&P 500 company has gained more than 128% over that stretch. So it just shows the AI hype at the moment, and Nvidia themselves, they are the kind of godfather, the mecca of AI production. So it's really interesting to see how they're driving this wave. And compared to other tech stocks, I mean, AI seems to be the winning race at this point.
Yeah, AI is basically carrying all of us. And I guess if Nvidia's earnings aren't what investors are expecting, if they don't, sort of measure up lower than expected, then that suggests that the AI boom would be running out of steam, and that would generally be bad, obviously, for stocks, probably pretty bad for crypto, probably just generally bad.
Yeah.
So we want Nvidia's earnings to be good, please. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
And there has been some comments as well saying that Nvidia have been kind of straining to meet demand as early as May of this year. So people are expecting kind of a mixed report. They're not sure what to expect. Some people are saying that the price has already been factored in. Elon Musk said in an interview in May, as we know, Elon is kind of the king of AI when it comes to building on and using Nvidia. And he has said that actually managing to get hold of processing chips and AI chips is considerably harder than to get drugs. He said It's really hard to get hold of them because demand right now is just so high. So we'll have to wait and see.
Okay. Gosh. So chips. So basically, if you're manufacturing chips, you're doing pretty well. Obviously, you want to be building something that there's always a shortage of. I think there was interesting as well, like ARM, which is a British chip maker.
Mm-hmm.
That's about to do an IPO, I think, as well, and that was an interesting one to watch out. I think they've gone, as they so often do now. I don't think they're planning to IPO in London, but rather in New York, which is Obviously not good for the UK, but yeah, chips are where it's at. So keep an eye out on those Nvidia earnings. As Jessica said, it'll be late at night or early in the morning Dubai time by the time those results come out. So that would be a nice thing to look at. We'll have a sense of it, won't we, when check crypto prices in the morning.
Yes.
And if they've gone another leg lower, it's all Nvidia's fault.
Let's have a little look. We'll wait and see.
Okay, unless some other crypto specific thing has happened overnight.
And you just don't know. With this beautiful industry, you can never call it.
I did actually tweet out a couple of hours ago that today seemed like really one of the quietest days in crypto that I can remember for a long time. And as I sent that, I thought that is going to really come back to haunt me if something terrible, if some shoe drops and crypto just goes down the toilet. So I'm really praying we can just hold on for, sort of at least another 24 hours.
It could be a when Lambo moment, and it could be the start of something beautiful. We just don't know, guys.
Yeah, maybe something good happens, and then I can say, in all honesty, that tweet of mine kick-started the bull market.
And we'll say thank you, Mr. Guy.
In which case, you're all very welcome. So lots of people in the comments. We've got people joining us from London, someone from London Fields, which was an old haunt of mine back in the day, someone from Egypt, Australia, the Philippines, Portugal, lots of people waking up early. This is good. Coin Bureau, I kind of feel Coin Bureau fans are generally early birds, get out and catch that worm. From Manchester, UK, from Alabama, Tennessee, Arizona, Hong Kong. Anyone from Wales? I think Jessica would love to hear if there are any Welsh people.
I would love to see if there was some more Welsh people representing the crypto space, because I'm here waving the flag and I would love someone that I could speak Welsh to and maybe get a sub Welsh Coin Bureau channel.
That short. Now, would that be the first ever Welsh language crypto stream?
I'm not sure, but it would certainly be the best, guys.
It would certainly
promise.
It would certainly confuse the hell out of everyone watching. Wow, let's make that happen. Anyone Welsh out there, please let us know. As usual, someone is claiming to be from North Korea. I think that might be a usual suspect who often claims to be from North Korea. If you are from North Korea, Welsh, Pontypool born, let's do it.
Oh, amazing. There we go.
Excellent.
Shamai, hello.
The black flaneur. Okay, Jessica, if you want to jump in with any Welsh at any point, just any more Welsh at any point, please feel free.
I absolutely will.
Frankie Noir wants us to know that he's from Rhyl. There we are. He wants us to know that 4 times. Welcome, Frankie. So look, there are plenty of Welsh people watching. That's great news.
Love it, guys.
We've also got people joining from Glasgow, from just Wales in general, from the Canary Islands, Anguilla. How do I pronounce it, Sheldon? I referenced that the other day. That was one of the places that's got its own CBDC. Anguilla. I think it's Anguilla. Let me know, Sheldon. I have a habit of pronouncing names and place names wrong. Okay. Get her to pronounce the longest named town in Wales.
I have been waiting for this career moment for about 8 years. And I actually feel like I've missed out probably about 5 letters in the middle. So the Welsh guys in the comments, can you please correct me? But it's a 32-character town name in Wales.
Wow.
And it's seen as quite a tourist attraction. You can go and take your photo at the train station with the big sign above you. So
there you are, folks. There you are. Mine's Julie Blair. That was a real mic drop moment, if you ask me. Fantastic. Okay. Well, I told you it was a quiet day for crypto because we're talking about all things Welsh. But this is great. I always love to see how many where people are tuning in from, where they're living at the moment, and it's great to see. We're literally covering all the globe. Cosmic Force has been on holiday to Rhyl. Does that count?
It makes one person that's been on holiday to Rhyl, so I'm sure it does absolutely count.
Okay.
I hope the weather was good for you. I hope it was not raining, because the Welsh have a tendency to do that. But I hope you had a great time. The Welsh were a friendly bunch. You do a great Welsh accent.
I do. I like to think so. Wales is a great. I haven't been to Wales. The last time I was in Wales, I did what every Englishman does and went and climbed Mount Snowdon, which has now been renamed into something I can't pronounce. But
I thought you were going to say go to the pub. So this actually was.
Well, we went to the pub, but no, we climbed Mount Snowdon. Anyhow, We should probably, Captain Rye just says, India just landed on the moon. Someone tell me which Indian coin is going to moon. It's literally in the stars. I'm trying to think of some India. I mean, Polygon has a large is a sort of Indian project. So
Indian founded team.
Is Matic going to moon off the back of an Indian moon landing?
Let us know in the comments.
I think, well, this is crypto, so I mean, and literally that could happen, and no one would be surprised. So what else were we going to talk about today? So Nvidia is the big story, so everyone's keeping a look out for that.
And then we just had a little look through the kind of the crypto news that was going on. Of course, one of the big talking points this week that has got the crypto industry quite excited is Friend.tech, and people are talking about this social finance new platform that has come out on the layer 2, which is built on Coinbase's base protocol. What is your take?
I'm always kind of wary of something that generates so much hype so quickly. Now, you could say that's just me being late to the party. I mean, for instance, and I'm not comparing the two, but I remember sort of looking at Pepe and going like, wow, now that everyone's kind of talking about it, it's probably too late.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I sort of wondered the same thing about Friend.tech, but I was looking at it and just sort of everyone getting involved, and like, I'm not going to name names, but I saw some people get involved who I was quite surprised. Like, I didn't think that would be their thing.
Yes.
So, and I mean, I think it's kind of it seems like a sort of perfect time because at the moment prices are pretty suppressed after that crash last week. Like, Bitcoin's price is literally doing nothing at the moment. So we're all kind of a bit starved of a particular narrative at the moment. The some of the other sort of coins, meme coins, other sorts of coins that were doing quite well, that seems to have fizzled out a little bit. So it seemed to kind of fill that void.
Yeah.
And it is an interesting idea. I mean, it's not the first time we've seen it, is it? Because it's sort of BitClout did something similar a few years ago.
Yes, BitClout did come under fire though for not getting approval of people that had signed up or that were available on the application. So I'm not sure because you guys were creating content at the time as well, but for a lot of the finfluencers, the crypto influencers, they were getting accounts made of them with them being unaware, which is kind of a bit of a
not ideal.
It's kind of a double-edged sword because I think it's interesting that we are seeing non-crypto native people sign up to the platform. So we're seeing YouTubers and influencers that are outside of crypto come on board and say, hey, this is a tokenization idea. That's always getting people more accustomed to the industry, which I think in some way can be quite useful. There is some security concerns, which we'll dive into in a second. And I think as well, there's been the traffic element, that there has been some strong traffic that has come from this on Coinbase's base protocol. So we saw a huge $5.3 million in fees generated in 7 days from Friend.tech, which in a bear market is pretty impressive. And then also you have to wonder if the marketing element that you have to be invited is another reason for this kind of surge. The exclusivity, it was kind of similar to Clubhouse in 2021, where you could only get on board if you were invited through a friend. If that does cause a kind of increase in traffic and people to speculate and talk about it a bit more. But you noticed some concerns about security and privacy of Friend.tech.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that we pointed out in our newsletter at the weekend. We sort of took a look into it. There is, we looked at the websites. There's no roadmap.
Yeah.
There's not a huge. We couldn't find much info on the founders. We didn't see a white paper of any sort. Now, that's not to say we live in the sort of times where fundamentals like that often don't really matter. But for me, those are always sort of things that I look for, and it makes me sort of slightly wary. And when you combine that with the fact that sort of everyone seemed to be rushing headlong into it, I don't know. It's not to say there's anything necessarily shady about the project, but my senses sort of told me it's like, I think just sit this one out a bit and see where it goes. There were also, I think, concerns, around privacy as well. We wrote that there's no working privacy policy that details what it does with data, what it does with user data. And again, that's a little concerning for me. So I think as far as I'm concerned, it's just one of those things. You know, sometimes you see something happening and everyone kind of jumping aboard it, and you sometimes feel the FOMO. I'm not really feeling the FOMO for it at the moment. I'm happy to sort of sit back and just kind of watch where this one goes.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I won't personally be signing up or putting any assets behind it, but I did find it interesting to see that people are talking about something in a quiet news week, and people outside of crypto are getting on board a new platform. So it's kind of neither here nor there, but it's a topic talking point.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, look, I've seen some persuasive arguments on Twitter saying, look, we've been waiting for a killer app to come along, something to drive engagement. Yeah. Here it is, and people are complaining about it. It's like, well, what do you want? And I think there's a fair point to be made there. It's like, well, as you say, it's driving engagement. It's a bear market, and it's also great news for Coinbase must be pretty relieved. Like, they launched their own layer 2, and straight away they have this kind of, I don't know if you can call it a paradigm shift. That's probably a little too hyperbolic, but they have this thing that goes kind of viral, for want of a better term, and that's been great for fees and driving adoption and talk of the hype, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it couldn't have come at a better time, really, when there's not a lot else happening. Coinbase has just launched this new layer 2, so.
Well, it helped Base outperform the likes of Uniswap and the Bitcoin network when it comes to transactions on the 19th of August, which is a pretty remarkable feat, actually. So we do have to give credit where credit's due, just for the surge of traffic there.
Yeah. So keep an eye on it, folks. But like I say, Jessica is not planning on using it, and I'm not planning on using it. We here at Coinbureau are not planning on using it. So if people inevitably do set up fake profiles or anything like that, don't buy them. So Sheldon says drives engagement but needs to end well too, which I think is and it's how long. Another thing that I've seen people talking about is like, well, how long is this sustainable? Is this something that's going to go on? Obviously, it requires, if you're buying shares in these influencers or whoever they may be, it requires input from them as well. These kind of group chat things, these, I've sort of seen AMAs kind of floated as a thing. And it's like, so they've got, the influencers themselves, is that something that they're going to be willing to keep doing? Is interest going to keep up? Or will it just get dropped when something shiny and new comes along? So a lot to see. Okay, how are people doing in the comments here? Lots of people talk. Oh, India has successfully landed near the moon's south pole. Okay, congratulations, India. We can talk. We can talk about that. It's not particularly crypto, although people are speculating that some Indian cryptos could pump as a result.
We might see some meme coins come out with this as well. You just don't know.
Yeah. Oh wow. You might have just given someone an idea there, Jessica. Okay. You didn't hear it.
Not financial advice.
No, that is really cool. Like, I think because I think the Russians were trying to land on the moon the other day, and they crashed. And now India, and I think that makes India only the fourth country. So America, Soviet Union, China, and India, I think, fourth country ever to land on the moon. But they've obviously, only the US has actually landed people there. So moonshot by India. Yeah, there we are. Congratulations, India. At least something has got to move. Thank you, Master Music. Yeah, that kind of sums up the day, doesn't it? Wow. We should probably just leave it there. I think that's the killer comment of the day. Okay, so how else are we doing here? Do you guys think, this is the Black Flaneur again, this is our Welsh friend.
Oh.
Do you guys think that a positive outcome for Grayscale this week might be enough to hold the traditional September decline, particularly given how it could tie into the upcoming ETF SEC decision? So, yes. Now, the Grayscale thing is an interesting one, because this is something that we were talking about, that was being speculated about last week, and we did a video on DCG just recently. So one of the theories is that the reason the crypto market crashed last week was because a lot of people were expecting a positive outcome in this Grayscale case, longed the market, and then basically they didn't get any sort of outcome at all. And I don't think anyone's really sure where this idea that there might be a decision in the Grayscale case came from. But that's interesting. So for those unfamiliar, this is Grayscale, who sued the SEC in order to be able to turn the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, GBTC, into a spot Bitcoin ETF. So the question is, I mean, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about a positive outcome this week. So I don't know if that's something that you know and we don't. Have you heard anything about?
No, and I was listening to an interview with Hester Pierce 2 or 3 days ago. She was on a podcast, and she was really saying that everything that she can comment on is already public knowledge from the SEC, and she was keeping things fairly close. So there doesn't seem to be much additional information out there at the moment. I think it's all speculation on what the future outcome could be. September, though, I was listening to your NFA call last week, and Rob was also announcing that September is also a pretty dire month for crypto, as we're all familiar with. So it's going to have to be wait and see when it comes to the wider crypto market.
Yeah. Gosh, I'd forgotten that as well. I think it was either Rob or Ben who pointed out that I think of the last 10 Septembers, I think 8 have been down. So make of that what you will, folks. Not financial advice, of course, but I'd be prepared for the next month to be not a great one for crypto. That said, if there is a positive decision in the Grayscale case, I think one is scheduled for this year. I think that's the guidance that we've been given.
Okay.
So I think we can perhaps reasonably expect to hear something about Grayscale by the end of the year. Whether that will come within the next month or so, I don't know. Will it be enough to reverse the traditional September decline is a good question, I guess, because if it is a positive thing, then that makes a spot Bitcoin ETF, presumably, a real thing. That's been the narrative that's sort of been sustaining the crypto market recently. The idea of a spot Bitcoin ETF. There's also the idea of an ETH futures ETF. It's been talked about as well. I personally don't think an ETH futures ETF being approved will necessarily do an awful lot for the market at the moment. If it was to come out tomorrow, I think we'd see a pump. I think it would be enough to sort of lift us off this rather boring sort of 26K level that we're at. But I don't think it would be necessarily a very sustained pump, and I don't think it would be enough to sort of set us off on a course to the moon or anything like that.
Yeah, it's the Bitcoin ETF that seems to be the real hook, line, and sinker for a lot of the investments and market movements.
Yeah.
Thank you, Zara.
Oh, this is nice. We can do that. So yeah, it's. I mean, remember, of course, an ETH. Thank you very much. Remember, an ETH futures ETF is backed by paper contracts at the CME, so that wouldn't require any buying of actual ETH. Nevertheless, I think it would be good for. It would obviously be good for ETH. It would be good for the market in general. But yeah, I don't think it would be enough to sort of send us like India to the moon.
To the moon. While we are on the topic of buying and selling ETH, one of the topics that we did see in the news this week was Vitalik sending $1 million worth of ETH to a Coinbase wallet, and that did cause quite a lot of speculation of what that would mean for the price of ETH, if this means that the Ethereum Foundation or traders within Ethereum have notified that maybe ETH prices could go lower, and this is why they're selling. And I don't know what your thoughts were, Guy, but from my opinion, it was just very kind of a small topic. $1 million is a really minute comparison for Ethereum and for Vitalik. And actually, one of the beauties of crypto is that we can see Vitalik publicly linking himself to a wallet, and you're able to see these transactions. This is something that we can't see in the traditional financial space. So the fact that you are able to monitor these movements, really, it's not a news topic that the movements are going, and there might be potential selling, but it's just a nice confirmation that in crypto, you can watch these people that are frontlining the crypto industry and how they're moving their funds around. And the fact that it is open source. So it's kind of not a third topic, but just a highlighting why we're in the space.
Yeah. It's a good reminder, isn't it, of how open crypto can be. And it's often, one of the arguments against crypto from fiat folks is that it's just a vehicle for money laundering or for obscuring funds or whatever. And then you remember that actually, most crypto transactions are completely viewable. And if you have the wallet address, you can see where they're sending their crypto to. So, yeah, I mean, who knows why Vitalik's moving $1 million worth of ETH around? Maybe he just wants to buy a few more Matador outfits and unicorn T-shirts or whatever it is. But yeah, it's some people tend to often kind of seize on that sort of thing. Go, oh my God, Vitalik's selling. Down we go.
ETH did sell once at the all-time high. So November of 2021, they did sell. I think it was 30. I have it here. 20,000 Ethereum in November 2021 at the market high of $4,600 per Ethereum. So I think after that, they have noted that the Ethereum traders and the Ethereum developer team is fantastic, as we know, but the Ethereum traders were pretty good on the call with that one. And I think from then, people are really watching to see when there's large movements of wallets and funds.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, the Ethereum Foundation or Vitalik, any sort of Ethereum insider potentially selling is always going to be noteworthy. But I mean, I often find this, I often think, well, everyone has their reasons, don't they? It's not necessarily a case of timing. It's like sometimes, sometimes you might just want to buy something.
They could be moving on to Base to test out.
Yeah, maybe they're looking to just degen into some meme coins on Base. Who knows? Okay, so how are we doing in the comments? How is Jimmy Joe Joyce asks, how is Dubai/Middle East for crypto? Which reminds me that you went to a crypto event last night.
I did.
Right? Here in Dubai?
One of the beauties of Dubai is that right now it's a quiet season because it's summer. It's terribly hot. Zara's brought us some water because there's currently a sandstorm outside. So our voices are getting a little croaky. You can't see anything. But when Dubai is busy and the temperature's a little cooler, there is a crypto event every day, if not almost every day, sometimes 2 in one day. And it's very busy for a lot of people coming in from around the world and a lot of meetups. You get to meet some amazing people that come through. And that's something that we're pretty excited to kind of push forward on in the future. Yesterday, I did go to a NFT digital art gallery in Souk Madinat in Dubai. For anyone that's in Dubai, they'll be familiar. But it was a huge venue. There was Ethereum and kind of ETH prices of NFTs all over the walls. It was a really interesting space. There was interesting art that was displayed that people were able to purchase if they wanted to. I personally don't have the budget in this bear market to purchase some NFTs, but they looked great. And then there was one organization called Safal Wallets that gave a presentation on custodial and non-custodial wallets. So it was really interesting to see some people there. It was very high quality people that were attending. The venue was great. And I think that's one of the nice things about the crypto community is despite market conditions, people will still go to these events and network. So it was nice to pop my head in.
Yeah.
It wasn't too late on in the evening as well, which is always a bonus.
Yeah. And didn't you, we were talking about this earlier, didn't we? Didn't they ask a question about wallets or something?
Yeah, so the CEO of the organization, Safal Wallets, gave a talk, and the talk was great. It was talking about your digital identity, how the blockchain can help with that, how non-custodial wallets is really important for you moving forward. And he asked the audience, how many of you have a hardware wallet? And I would say between 3 and 6 people out of, let's say, 100 in the audience put their hand up. And I was really surprised at the amount. So either people were a little bit shy to disclose their hardware wallets because they don't want the wider crypto community to know too much about their holdings, or people are still using exchanges to store their crypto and they're using wallets that are kind of on their phone or on their laptop. But I was really surprised at that. And I came and said to you, and I said, oh my goodness, this is
still got a long way to go, folks. A long way to go. I mean, I guess, maybe a lot of people were using desktop wallets, mobile wallets, whatever, which is generally, pretty good. But as we've said before, hardware wallets are the way to go for. Wow, so between 3 and 6 out of 100. So sort of 4.5%.
Yeah.
Wow. but not I'm sure 4.5% of the people watching this, because they're Coinbureau fans. I mean, I presume you're Coinbureau fans. Otherwise, why on earth are you tuning into a live stream at this time on a day like this? But yeah, I'm sure many more of you use hardware wallets, and if you don't, well, I'm going to say it again. You should. You must. Because yeah, it is the safest way of storing your crypto. So if you're keeping it on exchanges, I'll find you. Okay, we'll find you.
You've been warned.
You've been warned. Speaking of crypto events, some of us are going to Token 2049.
Yes.
Which is less than a month away.
13th and 14th of September. You and co are going to be on the ground in Singapore, meeting some of you guys. Maybe let us know in the comments if any of you will be attending. You can also head over to our TikTok as well. We are giving away some tickets to the conference. It is only to the conference, so I would suggest if you live in Singapore or you're able to make the travel arrangements, absolutely you should attend. The speaker lineup looks great. There's Gemini co-founders are attending. You've got the co-founder and CEO of Polygon. Some really interesting speakers. Arthur Hayes, former co-founder.
Arthur Hayes, yeah. Wow, that will be. I really want to see him talk. He's been on he's done a few interviews recently. I know he spoke to the Bankless guys recently. I think he might have spoken to Peter McCormack recently.
He did
as well.
speak to Peter McCormack. Yeah, that was a very good podcast episode.
He's so entertaining. Like, he just talks so well. Obviously, like a really knowledgeable guy, but he talks really well. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing him talk in the flesh. Hopefully, I might even get to talk to him afterwards. Maybe interview him afterwards. So that would be pretty cool, wouldn't it?
That would be great. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to seeing how you find the conference, what kind of information you can bring back to us all from at the Coinbureau HQ, and you might get to interview some people while you're there, and we can get some on the ground coverage. I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes.
Yeah, I'm gonna go rogue in Singapore. Just go roaming around with a camera and a microphone, just ambushing people and getting them to talk crypto. So that's going to be really fun. I'm looking forward to that. The conference itself is the 13th to 14th of September in Singapore. It's become, I think, Token 2049. It's kind of up there with, Bitcoin Miami and the other big ones. It's sort of one of the big events of the calendar. I say Bitcoin Miami. It's going to be Bitcoin Nashville next year. Next year. I'm also planning to go to Bitcoin Amsterdam as well. In fact, we're both going to that, aren't we?
We are. We're both going to that. I'm excited for Bitcoin Amsterdam.
Yeah.
I watched some of the live streams from last year's conference, and it looked pretty good.
Yeah. So that's conferences that we're going to. Those, and I'm sure hopefully a few more as well. Someone's asking about. I've seen a few comments about the BRICS conference. I haven't followed this too much today, but I did see that President Xi was supposed to give a big talk and then didn't. And everyone's sort of, apparently that's huge. Like Chinese leaders, generally the Chinese contingent tends to be pretty choreographed.
Yeah.
So for him not to turn up and do this speech is pretty big. So that's all I've read. Have you heard anything else about the BRICS?
I haven't as of today. I was keeping an eye yesterday. I think it's going to be really interesting at the end of this week, because obviously we've got Jackson Hole, which is the Fed annual conference, and we've got then BRICS going on this week as well. And the Jackson Hole conference topic is structural shifts in the global economy. So that's from the US side of things. And then we've also got BRICS, which is, I think you were saying earlier, a third of
40%. 40% of the world's population is represented by the BRICS. And I think it's about, I can't remember how many other countries it is that want to apply, but a huge amount. I mean, they're going to have to, if they start accepting them, they're going to have to change the acronym to something a lot longer. But BRICS is potentially pretty big. And there was talk, I think that's one of the themes of the BRICS conference. They're talking about maybe expanding the bloc, which is obviously, going to have big ramifications. There was also talk about maybe them announcing some sort of, common currency initiative, maybe backed by gold. There's obviously been speculation, maybe they'll do one backed by Bitcoin, I think we can probably rule that out.
Mhm.
Much as amazing as that would be.
A BRICS gold-backed currency, yeah. And I was listening to a podcast from the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and he was saying that this could be a new world order. This is a really serious talking point. And I think there is a consensus, and our kind of fellow US viewers can let us know. But I'm really curious to see how the media in the US are reporting on this as well, because we're obviously based here in Dubai. Saudi is a reference point that's involved in BRICS. So we're hearing some kind of different things, but it's going to be really interesting to see how the outcome is and if it can affect gold price at all in the next coming weeks.
Yeah. So keep an eye on the BRICS conference. I think that's got a couple more, or maybe it finishes today or tomorrow, but that's potentially pretty big. I've also seen plenty of people say that this idea of a BRICS currency is, it's an interesting one, but actually it would be really, really difficult to actually implement.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see. The BRICS, that narrative, that whole BRICS narrative, I think is going to be absolutely huge in the coming couple of decades. I really think that is going to shift the global economy in a big way, and I think we're going to end up with this sort of bipolar system, BRICS against the kind of G20 countries, which is, and there's obviously a bit of overlap between those, but that could be really, really interesting. So watch out for that. What other questions have we got in the comments? Chris Toast, that's a great name, Chris. Any thoughts on the war on Binance? Yeah, Binance is, I think the latest one is that they're fudding them for potential, I think it's facilitating Russian capital flight or something like that.
Yeah. Russia transactions.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is the problem when an exchange becomes, or when any sort of entity becomes as big as Binance has, it becomes a kind of natural target. I mean, we've got to, it's under fire in so many different places, so it's impossible to know how this is going to pan out. But Binance has kept going through thick and thin so far. So, and they're obviously very well resourced and pretty battle tested, I would say as well. Remember, in the wake of that FTX disaster, there was lots of speculation that Binance might suffer as a result, and it saw some pretty huge outflows, but didn't at no point stop withdrawals, kept going. So obviously regulators have got it in for Binance. I imagine that there will be some sort of settlement with regulators in various jurisdictions at some point. But I mean, this being legal proceedings, they will probably drag on for months and months and months. So yeah, it's I guess it's kind of to be expected in a bear market, isn't it? But Binance will fight them all the way, I think. So yeah, keep an eye on that one, because obviously that has, like any FUD with, I'm sort of wary of stoking FUD with things like Binance and Tether, because like I say, they have kept, Tether's another good example. Tether gets FUDded all the time and has been going strong for years without any issues. But it is always something at the back of people's minds, I think. If there's God help us if there's a problem with Binance or Tether.
Yes, and I think people right now are rightfully cautious and concerned. See, it's the dust outside. It's the sandstorm.
It's the sand. It's the sand.
Because we did have such a hard, heavy hit to the industry last year, so people rightfully are cautious because Binance is such a huge participant in the cryptocurrency space. But as Guy has rightfully said, I think the legal team and the effort behind it, there is going to be, for you as a consumer, I don't think there's much to worry about. If you're not keeping your funds on an exchange, you should be absolutely fine.
There we are, beautifully linked back to the whole hardware wallet thing, Jessica. Okay, someone else asking, hi guys, can you make a video on Bitcoin halving? How will miners make profit if a certain price of Bitcoin will not be reached? Some say that the price of Bitcoin needs to be over 90K to profit. I think at the moment, 20K is the break-even price for miners, for Bitcoin miners. I might be wrong on that. It might be higher. But yeah, we are obviously going to cover the Bitcoin mining, the Bitcoin halving, I guess sort of fairly soon, because it's getting closer. I mean, April April next year. This
Yes.
year is absolutely galloping along. So I guess we need to start thinking about doing a Bitcoin halving.
Yeah,
video.
and your requests and we will follow suit. So any requests that you do have for videos, I think Bitcoin halving absolutely is a right topic. It's
Yeah.
nice to factor these conversations in around 6 months prior, as there is the build up and anticipation, because the last Bitcoin halving that we saw, wow.
Yeah. That said, the Litecoin halving was a bit of a damp squid, wasn't it?
Fairly anticlimactic.
Yeah, didn't exactly pump the market like many were hoping, but I think that was always a bit of a long shot. What was the other? Were we going to talk about something else as well? Was there anything else on the agenda in particular that we were going to talk about?
So that was pretty much everything covered. We've taken a look at Nvidia, which is their quarterly earnings report coming out soon. Vitalik and Coinbase, Friend.tech. And then you've also got Bitcoin mining, which you've mentioned.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I made a note of that. That was something I was looking at. It's been such a quiet news day. And then Decrypt had an interesting story shortly before we went on air. So Bitcoin mining difficulty has just hit a new all-time high. You might have seen recent headlines that Bitcoin's hash rate has been sort of climbing steadily a lot recently as well. And that, for me, is very, very bullish, because it shows that there is, there are still miners joining the network. Basically, Bitcoin's mining difficulty is, it becomes, as the name suggests, it becomes more difficult to mine Bitcoin the more miners that join the network, and that's the way that the block time is kind of kept to that, to that roughly sort of 10 minutes. So, the fact that more miners are joining the network now, we hope that they're joining in places where they have, good access to renewable energy and things like that. That would make economic sense, you would imagine. And what I think is really interesting is you hear, especially from the States, but from elsewhere, other places as well, Bitcoin miners seem to be becoming increasingly sort of creative and resourceful. There's talk of Bitcoin mining using sort of excess flare gas to power the rigs. There's also, Bitcoin miners give off a lot of heat, so I think a lot of miners are experimenting with kind of using that heat. I think they've been kind of using it to heat houses and swimming pools and all that sort of stuff.
I used to work for a Forex bank in 2017, and just before the bull market, it was in Eastern Europe. And for anyone familiar with Eastern Europe and the kind of surrounding areas, up to -20 in winters. And quite a lot of my Russian cameramen that were living in Latvia would be using Bitcoin mines in their sheds in 2017. Yes. So mining was quite popular in the Eastern European regions because so cold during winter and energy prices were so cheap. So in places where there's low energy costs, I mean, in the UK, it'd be pretty expensive to run a Bitcoin mine, but you never know. If anyone's doing it, let us know in the comments. But in places where electricity and energy is fairly low cost to run, they're pretty appealing.
Is there anyone? I'm curious to see that in the comments as well. Is there anyone out there mining Bitcoin, running a Bitcoin mining rig? I mean, it's not. It's not a particularly easy thing to do at the moment. Jimmy Joe Joyce is saying that Scotland is 80% powered by renewables. Just another reason to move to Scotland, one of the finest places in the world. It's I'm fascinated. I think Bitcoin mining is one of those things. It's such a fascinating topic, and it's interesting. And as I say, very good news that that the difficulty is climbing, that the hash rate is climbing. It just shows that Bitcoin's price is not always, it's not the only indicator of what is going on. There is a lot more to Bitcoin than just the price of one BTC. I think so. We will do a video on the halving, hopefully sooner rather than later. We'll try and time it, just when interest is starting to peak. And actually, funnily enough, whilst we're talking about Bitcoin, we should probably sign off because we've been going for longer than we said we would. But this book, The Block Size War by Jonathan Beer, is something that I've been reading recently. It's absolutely fantastic. Many of you may be familiar with this story about the battle to try and change Bitcoin's block size back in 2015, 2017. We're actually putting together a video about this because, that's based on what this book talks about, because it's such a fascinating topic. But yeah, The Block Size War by Jonathan Beer. If you guys want a recommendation for something good to read, I know the summer holidays are pretty much over, but if you want something to ease you back into autumn or whatever, that is highly recommended. It's I know it sounds pretty niche, and I guess it is in many ways, but it's very well written and very entertaining as well. We are going to do. We should do more book recommendations at some point. I know you've got.
We
something.
should, yes, we do.
Yeah.
We'll do some cryptocurrency and surrounding topic book reviews for you guys if you would find that of interest. I actually also had a flick through this while I was on standby to film, and I have to say it does give a real glimpse into the history of Bitcoin in a way that is really kind of colorful and gives you an idea in some of the people that were really a part of having the Bitcoin network take off.
Yeah,
and it was excellent.
It is the most fascinating story. Really, really interesting. So someone's saying, "Oh, good." We've got one person saying too much Bitcoin leaning, and someone else saying, "Ah, good old times." Good old times when it was just Bitcoin, or well, no, the block size wars that was Ethereum, post Ethereum and ICOs and stuff. But it does seem like decades ago, doesn't it? And yeah, it's so much has changed since then, not just for Bitcoin, but for crypto in general.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So there we are, folks. I think that will do it for today. Well done to any of you, to all of you who tuned in for a live stream on a Wednesday. Well, it's an afternoon here, but a Wednesday morning or Wednesday night or whenever it was, on a day when, frankly, not an awful lot is going on in crypto, but there is still stuff happening. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for all your lovely comments. And yeah, I mean, I think the highlight for me was definitely hearing your pronunciation of that Welsh town. And like I say, I think this is surely a contender for the first. Can this count as the first Welsh language crypto stream?
I think it might, and I think it also is a contender for potentially being the kind of the start of we've got some great recommendations for some topics as well. So we're both going to go away now and get diving into those. So some Bitcoin halving content for you guys to see what's going on in the markets. The recommendations are absolutely helpful. And we'll see you all again next time.
We will. I bet you there's at least one Welsh person out there watching going, I did the first stream in Welsh. That's a disgrace. I'm going to write in. Anyway, that's quite enough from us. Thank you for watching, everyone. My name is Guy.
And my name is Jessica.
See you again soon. Okay. And